Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon. B&B spoilers. Katie Logan gets her bubble burst. This week on The Bold and the Beautiful, Katie Logan Heather Tom is riding high off Poppy Nozawa's Romy Park's arrest. But what goes up must come down, and B&B spoilers say it won't be long before the tables are turned on Katie. Did Bill Spencer's Dawn Diamond, first wife, take things too far with Poppy? Here's what's coming up next on Bold and Beautiful, spoilers ahead. Katie took things too far on B&B. Katie Logan swears she is just worried about Dollar Bill because he's the father of her son Will Spencer Jr., Crew Morrow. Bold and the Beautiful viewers know she still has feelings for Bill after their heartfelt chat a few weeks ago. Katie Logan might see herself as a hero in this situation, however B&B fans at home know that part of her is just being a jealous ex-wife. The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers hint Poppy Nozawa is just another red herring in the Il Giardino murders. If that's the case, it won't be long before the LAPD releases Poppy as well. Sure, there was evidence in her apartment, but that evidence looks an awful lot like a frame job. When Poppy Nozawa is released from police custody and cleared of murder charges, Bill Spencer's ex is going to have to answer to the new woman in her life. Sure, Luna Nozawa's Lisa Yamada mom could take the high road, but that's not likely. B&B spoilers. Poppy has had enough. B&B spoilers tease Poppy has finally had enough of Katie's shenanigans and trying to split her and Bill up. After spending a week in the slammer without her magical breath mints, we may see a side of Poppy we have never seen before. Do you think that the police will release Poppy, or is she really guilty? Did Katie take things too far? Katie Logan had always been a force to be reckoned with. Strong, resilient, and a true Logan through and through, she'd faced more than her fair share of heartbreak and betrayal. But this time, things felt different. She had a newfound sense of empowerment, fueled by her recent decisions and the alliances she'd forged. Life seemed to be finally turning in her favor, or so she thought. Katie's relationship with Carter Walton had been a breath of fresh air. Unlike the complicated, often toxic relationships she'd endured in the past, Carter offered stability and a genuine connection that Katie had longed for. But as she begun to plan for a future with Carter, something had been gnawing at her. The feeling that the other shoe was about to drop was impossible to shake. This particular morning, Katie woke up with an unusual sense of unease. The sun shone brightly through the curtains of her bedroom, but it did little to lift the dark cloud hovering over her. Carter was still asleep beside her, his breathing deep and steady, a sign of the peace he seemed to always carry with him. But Katie's mind was anything but peaceful. She quietly slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Carter, and padded down the hall to the kitchen. As she brewed her morning coffee, she couldn't help but reflect on the conversation she'd overheard the previous day at Forrester Creations. Brooke had been on the phone, her voice low and tense, discussing something that Katie hadn't quite caught. But there had been an unmistakable urgency in her sister's tone. Katie's thoughts were interrupted by the buzzing of her phone. She glanced down and saw a text from Brooke. "We need to talk. Urgent." Katie's heart skipped a beat. Brooke's texts were rarely this serious, and the timing couldn't have been worse. Her bubble of happiness with Carter was fragile, and she feared whatever Brooke had to say could shatter it. She quickly replied, "Meet me at Il Giardino in an hour." As Katie dressed and prepared to leave, she couldn't shake the sense of impending doom. She kissed Carter on the forehead as he stirred awake, murmuring something about a meeting she had to attend. He smiled sleepily and told her to be careful, but Katie could see a flicker of concern in his eyes. He'd always been able to read her emotions like a book, but she wasn't ready to share her fears just yet. At Il Giardino, the usually bustling restaurant was quiet, with only a few early patrons sipping their coffees. Katie spotted Brooke sitting at a secluded table in the corner, her expression a mix of worry and determination. "Katie, thank you for meeting me," Brooke said, her voice uncharacteristically soft as Katie slid into the seat across from her. "I wish I didn't have to bring this up, but you need to know." Katie felt her stomach drop. "What is it, Brooke? What's going on?" Brooke took a deep breath, hesitating for a moment as she searched for the right words. "It's about Carter and Quinn." The mention of Quinn's name made Katie's heart pound in her chest. The history between Carter and Quinn was a wound that had barely healed. She had tried to move past it, trusting that Carter had learned from his mistakes, but the uncertainty had always lingered. "What about them?" Katie asked, her voice steady, though her hands trembled slightly. "I overheard Quinn talking to someone on the phone," Brooke began, her eyes filled with sympathy. "It sounds like she's been back in town for a few weeks, and she's been meeting with Carter." Katie's world tilted on its axis. Meeting with Carter? Why? For what? "I don't have all the details," Brooke admitted, reaching across the table to squeeze Katie's hand, but it didn't sound innocent. Quinn was talking about unfinished business, and how she wasn't ready to let go of something, or someone. Katie's mind raced. Carter had been distant lately, distracted and often lost in thought. She had chalked it up to work stress, but now doubt flooded her. Could it be that he was still tangled up with Quinn? Had their connection never truly ended? "I don't know what to believe," Katie said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Carter promised me he was done with Quinn, that he wanted a future with me." "I know," Brooke said softly. "But you have to confront him, Katie. You deserve the truth." Katie nodded, though her thoughts were a storm of emotions. Anger, betrayal, sadness, all swirled together, making it hard to think clearly. She knew Brooke was right. She couldn't ignore this. But the idea of facing Carter and hearing him confirm her worst fears was almost too much to bear. As she drove back to her apartment, Katie tried to prepare herself for what she might hear. Every moment with Carter had felt so real, so genuine. But if Quinn had somehow worked her way back into his life, then everything they built could crumble in an instant. When she arrived home, Carter was in the living room, reading through some paperwork. He looked up and smiled when he saw her, but his smile faltered when he saw the expression on her face. "Katie, what's wrong?" he asked, immediately concerned. Katie took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "We need to talk, Carter, about Quinn." The color drained from Carter's face, and in that moment, Katie knew. Whatever he was about to say, it wasn't going to be good. "Katie," Carter began, his voice filled with regret. "It's not what you think. I promise I never meant to hurt you." "Then tell me the truth," Katie demanded, her eyes filling with tears. "Have you been seeing Quinn?" Carter hesitated, and that brief pause was enough to shatter the last remnants of Katie's hope. She knew the answer before he even spoke. "She reached out to me a few weeks ago," Carter admitted, his voice thick with guilt. "She wanted to talk, too. I don't know, find closure, I guess. I didn't think it would be a big deal. But then, old feelings came back. But I swear, Katie, I didn't act on them. I didn't do anything to betray you." "But you met with her," Katie said, her voice breaking. "You lied to me, Carter. You kept this from me." "I didn't want to hurt you," Carter said desperately. "I love you, Katie. What I had with Quinn is over, it's in the past. But I'm here with you now. That's what matters." Katie shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "But how can I trust you, Carter? How can I believe that this is really over?" Carter reached out to take her hand, but Katie pulled away, her heart breaking all over again. She had trusted him, let him into her life, into her heart, and now it felt like all of that had been for nothing. "I need time," Katie said finally, her voice hollow. "I need to think." Carter nodded, pain etched on his face. "I understand, but please, Katie, don't give up on us." Katie didn't respond, she couldn't. All she could do was walk away, leaving behind the man she had thought she could build a future with. Her bubble had burst, and the reality of her situation came crashing down around her.